Hello, and welcome to the Vision Computer Programming webinar on how to use staff volunteers in member tracking and also how to use your staff scanning or time cards. I'm Veronica. Thank you for being here. If your member tracking looks different than mine, that means you may need to upgrade. So if you're unsure if your organization is paid up to date on their fees, just give us a call. You can see on the top left corner of my screen up here, it tells you that I'm on 8.10.01, which is our most current version. So if you're on any number lower than that, if you'd like information on upgrading, again, give us a call. Everyone has been muted for the duration of the webinar, but I do invite you to submit typed questions through the webinar tool. I will check for questions periodically throughout the webinar, and all questions pertaining to the subject will be answered at the end. I'm also going to respond to any off-topic questions by phone or email, so feel free to submit any sort of question you'd like. Lastly, if you have any trouble seeing the webinar or if you lose audio, you can shoot me a quick note or question also to let me know. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and just add a new staff person. Actually, let's step back one step. First, let's go in to Organization Information and Standards. This screen explains that if you are at a unit that imports your data to your admin office, you may not be able to edit your information in this area of the program. If you're unsure, again, you can just give us a call and we'll let you know if you're okay to come in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put my name in. Always be sure to put your full name and click I understand before entering this section of the program. All right, so here I am in Org Info, and I'm going to go set up some pay periods and time types for my staff volunteers. So at the top, I'm going to go to pay periods. So if you would like to use our time card feature, first you're going to come here and build the pay periods for your organization. So you can see I already have some pay periods listed here on the left-hand side, and they go all the way down to September 11th of this year. So I'm going to go ahead and create some new pay periods so that you guys can see how it's done. First, you select Auto Create Pay Periods down here at the bottom. It's asking me for what type of pay period. Are we paid weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, which means twice a month, or are you paid monthly? So I'm going to go ahead and stick with my bi-weekly here, so B for bi-weekly, and I'm going to click OK. It's asking me how many pay periods I want to create. Notice at the top you can create up to 53 at a time. So, 53, that way you only have to do it once in a while here, and I'm going to click OK. What is the starting date of the first pay period? You can see it's automatically selecting the next date that's available, but you can change this to your first pay period start date. Click OK. So now it's telling us it's going to create those. And now you should have seen that over here on the left. It just added a whole bunch of pay periods. This is going to determine just kind of some rules when you go run your time cards later. You'll be able to select your pay periods. All right, so now that I've done that, I've also noticed on the screen you can add to your time types. Time types allows you to actually select a time type on the time card, so you can assign a certain type such as sick time or personal time or vacation time on the actual time cards. So again, here in Org Info, we're just setting up those rules. So you can add to this. Some people or some clubs, you can add a new time type here on the right, actually create all sorts of time types that might work for your club, including certain grants. I'm just going to put the word grant here, but a lot of clubs might actually put the name of their grants in, or certain projects that they'd like to track, how many hours their staff people have put towards those certain time types, how many hours they've worked on a certain grant or a certain project. So you can get real specific in here. Also notice there's some check boxes over here on the right that says count towards overtime. This means that it's setting up some rules so that when you run your time cards and you're asking for a total of overtime hours, it's going to only count the time types you've selected here towards overtime. So I'm going to go ahead and select a couple overtime. I'm going to make my grant type count towards overtime, since that might make sense. Okay. So now on the bottom right, also notice that there are some time card rules. You can select whether you'd like to use actual clock in and out times on your time card, or if you'd like to round in and out to your nearest quarter hour. So if your staff person clocks in, 5 minutes after, it's going to round it to the next 15 minutes if you have this selected. I'm going to stick with what I had going here, which was I'm using the actual in and out times, and I'm not rounding. So once you have these things set up, you may also want to go up here at the top. We have staff types. Keep in mind you can add to your staff types. This is when you add in a new staff person and you want to select their position. If you don't see your positions listed, you can actually come here to Org-Info, go to the blank line, and just continue to add to these different staff types. So let's make I'm going to make one new staff type. Again, I'm just adding a new staff type to that blank line at the bottom. And then there's a button on the right. If it's turned on, that means it's an active type. If you turn it off, it's inactive. It will not show on your drop-downs in your staff volunteer area. You may also delete a type just by selecting it and clicking the Delete Staff Type button here at the bottom. So those are the two main staff screens here in Org-Info. Once you have these things set up, then you can go on to Staff Volunteers. So I'm going to go to the main menu and click Staff Volunteers. All right, so now that we've got our rules set up, we're going to come here and let's just go ahead and we'll add a new staff person. So I'm going to click Add Staff or Volunteer down here on the lower left. Let's go ahead and I'm going to just make up a name here. Notice that the employment start date is already selected as of today, but you can set that back or forward, to match your actual employee's real start date. Your position, just hit this drop down. I'm going to select a position. If this person is a volunteer, you can turn this checkbox on. I'm going to make this person an actual staff person, so I'm going to leave it unchecked. Now notice in the middle of the screen we have choose from similar names already on file. This is going to help you avoid duplicate staff members because it's going to see if somebody has a similar name and show them to you here on the screen, very much like adding a new member. So I'm just going to continue. You can keep a nickname, a payroll ID number. Please note the payroll ID number really is not tied to anything in member tracking. It's not tied to time cards. This is not a payroll software. It will assist you with time tracking, but this payroll ID field is simply here if you want to track it here in the system. So if you just like a place to keep that payroll ID number, to tie it to a person, you can type that here. But again, keep in mind this has really nothing to do with your time cards. All right, so membership number, I can calculate a staff number. Now, we recommend if this is a staff person, use the prefix and put an S or a V in the beginning. That way it won't conflict with any of your member numbers. Date of birth. You could keep Social Security and driver's license information here. Ethnicity information. Marital status. If you turn the Need ID card checkbox on, then this person will be entered into a queue so that when you go to actually print your ID cards, you can select this person. Employer, if this person was a volunteer, you can select where the person's employed and type in their occupation. Put a primary phone number in. I'm going to make this their home number and then continue. Apparently, I already have someone in the database in a household with the same last name. So it's just asking me to check and see if this person should be added to the same household, in which I can select the white household and then pick to use that household, or I can continue with a new household. I'm going to go ahead and continue with a new household. And here's where you can just go ahead and put in your address. Notice I'm just going to skip straight to the zip code line and pick a zip code, and it's going to fill in my city and state for me off of that list. And I'm going to click OK. And now we're coming, it's brought us to our main staff volunteer screen. So now you can see most of the information we've typed in is here on this main screen. So you can come back and edit anything if you've made a mistake or add any information if you've missed it. Let's go ahead and go to the next tab. Actually, before we go to the next tab, notice too that there's a deny entry to club checkbox here. So if this staff person has been terminated and is no longer allowed in the club, if you turn this on, if they try to check in through quick entry, you'll get a big warning screen to let you know this person is not allowed in the club. And you can also assign a reason and actually type out why the person should be denied entry to the club. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the second tab at the top, which is our Employment History tab. This Employment History tab shows you the start date and the position of every staff person. Every one of your staff people should have a start date and a position assigned to them. If the person is no longer employed with you, you should also assign an end date to show the date their employment ended. This is what determines whether your staff person is active or inactive in the system. If the person has an end date, they are inactive. I'm going to go ahead and let's go to another staff person's record and look at this page. So now I'm looking at Tara, whose start date was in September of '09. She was a volunteer. Let's say this person left. So let's go ahead and say September '09. Let's go terminate her in October of '09. So now this person has only volunteered for a couple months, and now they've left the club. Let's say this is similar to how you would want to track your seasonal staff people. So let's say you have people that come in and just work for the summer, and then they leave at the end of summer. You can actually go ahead and terminate them for this summer, and then when they come back in next summer to work for you again, you can click this button at the top that says assign this person to a new position, and you can go ahead and rehire them. So let's go ahead and rehire them at the beginning of this year. And we can give them a new position or the same position they had before. Let's go ahead and make this person a volunteer again for this time period. So now that I have a new start date and a new position and no end date, this person is now reemployed and currently employed until you give them an end date again. You can see over here on the right also that it shows you the history. So you can see that this person was employed last year and then left in October and now has been rehired for January. I see a couple questions. One of them is, we hire summer staff. Could we put the end date when they're hired since we know their end dates? No, I wouldn't do that, because if you go ahead and issue an end date, that terminates them in the system. Then you'll no longer be able to pull time cards, and a lot of functionality will be lost, including you won't be able to find them on some of your drop-downs up here. So what I would recommend, if you already know when their end date's going to be, if you want to put a note, you could actually come here back to the General tab, and you could put, you know, this person will work until, you know, such and such a date. So you can actually put a note here for yourself. So if you know what date they're going to end on, you know, you could note it here. But again, I would not, on the Employment History tab, I would not assign an end date until they are actually terminated. Another question I had was, you know, back on the General Info tab when we skipped typing in that city and state and we went right for the zip code, which filled it out. Someone has submitted a question to ask me if that'll work in the members section of the program. Yes, it will. If you're adding new members, you can go ahead and skip straight to the zip code, and it will pick your city and state off of that drop-down list. Now, if it's a new city and a new zip code, you know, that it doesn't already exist on that list, then you will have to type it in. But if it's already on the list, it'll pick it for you. All right, so I'm going to go back to the Employment History tab. And really, that's all you need to know here about your start and end dates. Up here on the top right, there's a next review date. So let's say this person is going to have a review date next March on the 22nd. You can go ahead and put that in this record, and there's an actual report you can run to see all of your staff people's next review dates so that you can keep up with them. The Picture Fingerprint tab, similar to members, you can keep a photo of your staff person or their fingerprint if you're using the fingerprint scanners here if you'd like to. The Time Card tab, this is where you can get those time cards. You could print them, view your overtime hours. We're going to come back to this screen a little bit later and look at time cards in more detail here in just a few minutes. Group memberships, you can create staff groups. Let's go to groups from the main menu. So many of you probably already know how to use groups for your members, but you may not know that you can actually create a new group. I'm just going to make this just a test group here, and I'm going to click OK. Now notice up here on the top right, I can change from member to staff. So now you've got all your staff people on the right that are eligible to join this group. If you double-click each of their names, they're going to be added to your group, and now this is a group just for staff people. So if I go back to staff volunteers, and I'm going to pull up that groups tab at the top, you can see on the right is a list of all your available staff groups that you've created in groups, and you can also see if your member is, if your staff person is a member of these groups. And you can add them to groups, and you can also remove a group. So you can edit who's a member of a group right here on the screen. All right, there's a facilitator tab at the top that shows you if your staff person is picked as a facilitator to an actual group, and you can make them facilitators. These groups are your member groups. So you can see I've got a field trip to the zoo set up, softball. These are my kids' groups. So I can make the staff person a facilitator to any of these groups just by picking them over here on the right and moving them onto the members record. You can also keep comments here if you'd like. All right, so let's go to the certifications tab at the top. You can assign certifications here in this screen, and you can also show when those certifications expire. So if your staff people have to carry certain certifications, you can track them here, put the expiration dates here, and then you can run reports and find out who is expiring when, and you can keep track of those and manage them right here in this screen. So at the bottom, you can add a certification to a group or just one staff person. So let's add a new certification. I'm just going to make one up, and I'm going to add it. I'm going to make today the date this person got the certificate, and let's go ahead and expire them next year. By the way, if you type the letter T while you're in a date field, it will automatically put today's date in for you. So now that I've created the certification name and put my dates in, I can now add staff people to my certification. Or you could select everybody and go ahead and give the certification to your whole group. And then close. And now I'm going to refresh my screen, and you should see that certification pop up here. It didn't put my dates in. Let me go ahead and change that. There we go. All right, so there's your certification screen. I'm kind of checking to see if anybody submitted any more questions. I don't have any new ones, so let's go to the next tab over. Here's your Custom Fields tab. It works just the same way your members' custom fields do. What that means is if you would like to track information in member tracking where we don't have a spot for it, you can create your own fields. That happens back in organization information. So just you know, in my members, I created some custom fields to track what shirt size they wear, if a family qualifies for food stamps. You can create those same custom fields for your staff people, and you can see I've got one here for just t-shirt size. If you'd like to create custom fields for your group, you can give us a call. We'd be happy to walk you through it. And you can also get reports back out on this. On our Guidance tab, you can keep track of guidance and accident reports. just by switching up here on the top right between guidance and accidents. So you can create new guidance records and accident records here for your staff people. I'm just going to select a person that is reporting it. Actually, I'm going to pick me. Let's pick me. You could select a category here. Let's say disobedience. Actually, I'm going to create a new category for my staff person. And let's say so I can create a guidance record, and I can also put an outcome. And now again, if you need to put in an accident record, you can just change to the accident record up here and just put one in. Keep in mind also, all of these staff screens there are permissions for. So if you set up your staff person, you can set them up to where they could see all of their staff records except for their guidance tab or their time card tabs. That way you could keep this hidden from your staff people. You know, if you want a little privacy on these records, be aware that that's possible. And down at the bottom, you could print a hard copy, so if you'd like your staff person to sign it and keep a hard copy on file, or send them home with a copy. And you can add or delete accident or guidance records here at the bottom. And you can also get reports back out on this. This category type, you can actually print a report to see how many people have had reports under physical violence or tardies, or you can get a hard copy report of just any guidance or accident records for the specific staff person. So it's a pretty flexible tool. This availability tab is really, really neat. What you can do is on the right is a list of all the activities or programming for the kids that you've entered into your system. And you can actually select the experience level that this person, this staff person has in this specific activity. So you can see Michael here, our staff person selected, has a lot of experience in arts and crafts, dinners, he can cook, general attendance might not be. I'm going to take that out. Power hour, he's got some experience with. Your experience levels go from 0 to 5. So you can select if this person, let's say they're a soccer coach, you're going to want to give them a 5 for soccer. And let's say that he, you know, maybe was a volunteer lifeguard as a teenager, and we can give him a 1 at swimming. Or so on and so forth. And now here on the left, you can also select availability. So you can see, you know, Michael's available every morning, some afternoons, and a few evenings. Now what's really neat about this screen is at the bottom is a button that says Find Available Staff and Volunteers. Let's go there. And now you can actually query or ask the program to show you which staff people might fit into these categories. So let's say you're having an activity on a Saturday morning, and the activity is arts and crafts, and you'd like to find anybody with an experience level of a 5 or better in that activity. And now we can find those people. And now you can see that these people have that experience level, and these are the people that are available for Saturday mornings. So now you can call them and find out if they'd be willing to come in and participate or help out, you know, during your event. So this is a great way to find volunteers. All right, now our last tab here at the top. Oh, notice also, excuse me, there's a completed orientation checkbox. So if you have this turned on for your people, then when you do your Find Available, you can ask it to only find people who have completed the orientation, and it's just going to be looking for anybody that has this checkbox here on the top right turned on. All right, so now I'm going to go to the next tab, which is our Miscellaneous tab. This is just a great place to organize electronic documents. So let's say you're keeping, you scanned in all of your staff people's birth certificates or background check papers, and you could save those somewhere on your computer. Then you can actually come here, and let's say we're going to organize your birth certificates. You can double-click on this file line and actually go to the location where your staff folder is saved, where all the birth certificates are saved, and you can actually select the location of that birth certificate. So then when you leave this record and come back, it's going to save that path. Then you could print and view the file right here in this person's record. Now you can see I've began to make an entry here, but I actually don't have any files to path to. So the easiest thing for me to do is hit escape on my keyboard. It just undid what I typed in here on the screen. This is handy for you guys. If you ever get stuck in a screen, maybe you've mistyped your time or your date, and the program's kind of got you stuck, try to hit your escape key a couple times. It may undo what you've done and then let you move on. So now I'm going to go in next and let's discuss how to actually track your staff people's time. So we'll schedule an activity and we'll look at time cards. Before we go there, the last few things to know on this screen is down here at the bottom are your Add Staff Volunteer buttons, your Delete Your Staff Volunteer People. If you would like to move them to a new unit, you can use the Move Staff Volunteer button. Staff History will show you any history on this person's account here or their record here in member tracking. If you need to change their name, you have to click the Change Name button first. You can create staff volunteer ID cards, very similar to the same way you would create them for members. There's also a scheduling calendar down here, so if you'd like to create a schedule to show your staff people what time and days they're going to work, you would just come here and you could schedule a staff person to work. Now I went ahead and just scheduled Michael to work at 8 on Thursday. So you could come here and schedule all your staff people, and then you could print a hard copy to hand out or hang up on the wall so everybody knows how or what time they're scheduled to work. And then up here at the top left is a global find for staff. This is going to show you all your staff people from all of your units. So the first item is their name, the second is the unit they work at, and then you have an S or a V for your staff or your volunteers. Down here you can change between units. And now on the right-hand side, this menu will only show you your staff or volunteer people in your unit. And it's only going to show you your active staff people if you have this active checkbox turned on. So if I turn that off now, I see everybody, even old staff people that have end dates assigned to them. If I turn this on, then I'll only see new people who have a start date and a position, but no end date. That means they're active in the system. All right, so I'm going to go out to the main menu, and let's look at how to get these people to clock in and out. The first thing you have to do is schedule an activity the same way you would schedule it for your members. You're going to come here to your activity calendar and just go ahead and schedule your activity down here in the lower left corner. Select the unit you'd like to schedule it for. The activity you're going to select is staff volunteer hours. Do not create a new staff hour or staff time or staff time card activity. It has to be this one that came on the CD. Again, this one is staff/volunteer hours. It is the only one that's tied to your time cards. So if you create a new activity for your staff, your time cards won't work correctly. So be sure to just pick this one activity. The location can be anywhere that they clock in. Attendance method has to be in and out. I'm going to go ahead and start scheduling mine on the first of the month. My start time and end time are going to be the time my staff people come in and the time they leave. But be aware that if your staff people come in before this, so I'm scheduling mine from 8 to 6, and if my staff people happen to show up at 7 or 6 in the morning for a staff meeting, they can still clock in. A comment, which is optional. I'm going to repeat my activity Monday through Friday through the end of February. And now I'm scheduling it. Just schedule activity at the bottom. All right, so now we're back at our activity calendar. You can see that I have staff on my calendar for every day. Now that you've got staff volunteers set up, you can go to Quick Entry. You may have this open all day for your kids to check in. Your staff people can come here and check in also. So now notice in my new version here, it says general attendance, but it's going to know if I'm a staff person. Notice that this person actually says this staff person will not be scanned in. He's denied entry to the club. If you guys recall, on the staff person's main screen, there's that checkbox that says deny entry to the club. This is what it looks like if one of those people try to scan in. So now your staff people can scan in using their name or their number. So I'm going to go ahead and just scan somebody in here. So now I've got a couple staff people scanned in. Notice this person has 2 records. Here it says under the staff column N. That means no, this person's not a staff. So I actually have this person enter twice, once as a staff and once as a member. So just be sure if you've got that situation at your club that you're picking the staff record. So here's a Y for staff. So I know this is my staff person, and I'm going to go ahead and check that person in. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of Quick Entry now that I've scanned a couple people in. The next thing to know is that you can actually go directly to your attendance calendar and change between your activities. So I'm going to select my staff volunteer hours. And now you can see on the left, I've changed from being able to view my members to here's all my staff people. You can see over here on the right are 2 people that I've scanned in today. I'm going to go ahead and give other people some attendance here. You can do this just by typing X's on the keyboards, just like you would for your members. But keep in mind that if you just type an X, it's just going to assign their, I'm going to double click an X actually so you can see it. It's going to assign the in time and out time as being the times you scheduled the activity to occur. So if you're actually doing time cards in the system and you've either missed a punch, somebody scanned in by mistake, or you just need to edit the time, you can actually come here and double click on a square, pick your location, and then you can type in their in time and type their out time. This is good also, again, if somebody missed a punch, or let's say this person accidentally got clocked in at 8, but they didn't come in until 9, you could come here and just type those times directly here into this calendar. So now once you scan, your staff people have scanned in, you'll see their times are kept here on this attendance calendar. Now you have to go pull your time cards. It's going to keep all their times here on this attendance calendar until you actually go and run your time cards. It's going to pull the times from this calendar over to the time cards. So let's go take a look at that next. Let's go back to staff and volunteers. We're going to go back to that time card tab at the top. Now I know that my database here is just a demo file. It's what I practice in. And I know before we did this webinar that I set up some times so that I can pull some time cards. So I'm just going to go back to that date range. For me, it was the week of January 4th. So I'm going to pick my time period, my pay period, for January 4th. Keep in mind, again, if you come here to pick your pay periods and they're not showing up, you have to go to Org Info off the main menu first and create them like we did in the beginning. So I'm picking my time period, and at the bottom, the first thing you have to do is do this retrieve and build the time card. What that's going to do, it's going to retrieve all those scans from your attendance calendar that everybody did through Quick Entry, and it's going to build a time card. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to hit retrieve and build. Notice at the top you can pull it for everybody. You could just do 1 unit at a time, or you can just pick a specific person. I'm going to go ahead and run this for everybody, retrieve and build. Now at the bottom are some options. Most of the time you're going to just want to be on D. That means it's the first time you come here to do this for this pay period, and it's just going to pull all your times over. We have some other options, A, B, and C up here. This is just in case you already did the retrieve and build and then realized, hey, some of my staff people didn't scan in, I got to go fix it. And then you have to come and retrieve and build again. In that case, we've built in some options here so that you're able to do the retrieve and build more than one time and not lose your changes. So your first option is going to delete all your time cards from the time card screen and just start over. So if you've already done your retrieve and build and you'd like to delete everything that you've done and just start over, you're going to do option A. Option B is going to delete all records from Quick Entry, and it's going to keep the manually created records. So let's say you come here to staff volunteers and you go directly to your time card tab and you start manually typing in times, which you can do. If you pick this option to retrieve and build again on B, it's going to keep any changes that you've typed in on the time card screen and pull in new times again. And then this last option is going to unedited. It's going to keep types 2 and 3, which is up here in red. So it's going to delete your scans from Quick Entry, and it's going to re-pull in anything that you've edited in your time card screen. So basically, it's going to keep anything that you've manually changed in that screen. So my recommendation for you guys, because I know that these options can be confusing, is if you have to retrieve and build more than once, give us a call and we can tell you which option will work for you. Again, if you're just pulling your retrieve and build for the first time, you're going to want to keep it on D, and that's going to work for you. So once you've selected who you want to pull your retrieve and build for, and you've selected your option down here, again, D, then you're going to continue with the retrieve and build. And now it's actually going to go out and pull forward people's scans. So now this person, let's go through and look here. Oops. Looks like I had the wrong year selected. So I'm just going to go do that again quickly. I'm going to pick this one. Oh, here it is. It actually did retrieve and build it. So now you can see on my time card screen, I actually have the times that these staff people worked. This is now when you could come through here after you've done your retrieve and build, and you could assign a time type. So if this person worked a certain time on a certain grant, or let's say that they went ahead and they worked on the 9th, or they were scheduled to work on the 9th but didn't, and they want to use some sick time, you can actually come here and create this record directly by just typing on the screen. And now once you've done all the adjustments that you need to, you've selected your time types, now you can go and actually print and preview the real time cards. So if you want to print a record at the bottom, again, after you do the retrieve and build, you come here and edit the times, then you could print them by selecting that print time card button at the bottom. So now here's your time cards. The dates are already selected for you. You have an employee footer message, which is usually used to build a signature line. So you can do, sign and date. And you can really make this look however you'd like it to look. You can put signature, date, employee signature. This is really customizable. There's another tab at the top, so you can come up here and select if you only want to do the print your time cards for one person, only certain positions. You could leave it on all your staff to get everybody. On the right, you could also pull time cards just for certain staff groups that you may have selected. If you want to print for your staff and volunteers, or just your staff or your volunteer people. And then you could preview or print the cards at the bottom. So here you can see I'm going to preview my card. So you can see that this person clearly worked these days and how many hours. It can also create overtime hours for you. If you'd like it to, it'll separate those out. And then here's my sign and date that I just made here on the prep form. You also have on this screen show time type, straight versus overtime summary. Let's preview it again. And now you're going to get your overtime hours down here. I see down here that we're running overtime. I know that this is only supposed to be a 30-minute webinar. I'm going to continue on now that we've done our time cards, and I'm going to look at a couple reports. So maybe another 5 or 10 minutes here. If you don't have time to continue, we're going to post a recording on our website so you can watch it later. So if you have to go, you can watch a recording. I'm going to go ahead and close from this time card screen. Notice, too, you can export your time cards to Excel if you'd like to. So I'm going to go ahead and close my time card screen out, and I'm going to go answer a couple questions. Can we schedule staff for more than one day? Yes, if you're using the scheduling calendar, you can assign another. Let's schedule a staff person just to make sure in case I'm incorrect. Let's go ahead and schedule him to work at night. So now you can see your staff person as scheduled to work twice in one day. So I'm going to close this. My next question is, what is the best way to track youth who are members and also volunteer? Should there be a member record and a staff volunteer record? Yes. If you have a member who also volunteers at the club, you're going to want to enter them in as a member, and then also come here to staff volunteers and re-enter them again as a volunteer. What we recommend is if you do that, maybe vary their name a little bit. You can give them a middle initial, and then also give them a distinct member number so that they'll have and then you can also print a staff card. So you might give your kids that are in this situation a member card to scan in when they're a member, and then also print them a new staff volunteer ID card so they can scan in separately when they're a staff person. If you don't use your scanners, then give them a distinct member number as a staff number and then as a member. So, and again, I do that by using this S as a prefix, and then they can use their member number when they check into member activities, and then they can use their staff ID number if they're checking into their staff volunteer hours. And the last question that was submitted was, can you split days on a time card? So could you do a half day for one grant and half time as admin time? Yes. You can do that. If you are a staff person and you're checking in here, you can actually scan in and out more than once in a day. Or if you come directly here to their record, you can actually type in a new line here. So you could check them back in yourself if you'd like. Let's say this person worked at night. So you could give them more than one scan in and out time for the day. Or, and then if you do it this way, when you do your retrieve and build, you'll actually see those distinct scans here on this screen, and then you can give them a specific in and out, specific time type. You could also, if you do the retrieve and build, you can manually edit this here on this screen. So I'm going to go ahead and check this person in again. So you can see this person worked twice on the 8th, once from 8 to 6, and then another at night. And then, yes, you can go ahead and assign the different grants or admin time, whatever you have built into this menu. I happen to not have too many, so this may not make sense. I'm going to pick holiday, but, you could pick one grant here and the next grant here. So you can split it up more than once in a day. The last question I have submitted here is, when adding a staff to a household, how do you determine which household it is when there are two households with the same last name? Let's look at that. So now here I've got my list of households. Notice here on the right it shows you the address for each household. So that's how you can determine which household's the correct one. Or if you need more information, if you just jot the address down, then you can actually go to, let's say it's a member that might have that same household. You could find by address up here. So here's the find by address, so now you can actually look up that address, or obviously you can look it up by the household name. So you can go and take a closer look at that actual record to find out who's living in that household. Or if it's a staff person, you can look them up here. But that address line is going to be what's going to, help you determine which household it really is. All right, since there's no more questions at this time on our staff screens, let's close here and go look at our reports. So I'm going to go out to the main menu and go to Reports. And here at the top is a Staff tab. So you can see all the different staff reports that we have available. So you can get, that certifications report we were discussing to see who needs to recertify. We can get those staff guidance and accident records over here. We can find out who's been terminated in the program. You can get your age, ethnicity, gender reports, which is important for a lot of your annual reports. So we have a lot of reports here. If you hover over any of the buttons, it's going to give you a little summary of what information you might see on those reports. Now I'm going to go run a report that is very helpful that you may not know about. This is going to be one of the last things we look at here. I'm actually going to go to the Calendars tab, and I'm going to run an hourly attendance report. I'm going to leave it on all members in the system here on the USE. You may want to select your specific unit if that applies to you. And now I'm just going to continue here at the bottom. Now on my prep form here on the next page, I can pick the date range I'm looking for. You can specify a start time. So I'm going to make my start time a little bit earlier. You could select an activity. And now on the right, here is a checkbox that says Show Member-Staff Ratio on the report. And then you could select your positions and then preview the report. What this is showing me is a breakdown of every hour the club was open on the days I've selected, and it's showing me how many members were in attendance during each hour. So you can see on Monday I had 20 kids up until 1 o'clock, no, up until 2 o'clock. And at 3, I had one member go home, and I only had 19 kids. So down at the bottom is that member-staff ratio. So it's actually showing you how many members you have to each staff person that you have working at that time. So this report is a really handy way to see, if overtime is justified, if you may be overstaffed or understaffed. I'm going to hit close here on the report. So let's say, this report might be useful, so we could pick soccer and then only pick your coach and preview. And then you're only going to see how many kids in that one activity, correlate to how many staff people of that position that you have selected here on this page. So again, this is a really handy report that you may not have known about that's going to help you determine, again, if you're overstaffed or understaffed. Be sure that you have this Show Member-Staff Ratio selected, or you're not going to get that helpful information. All right, I'm going to close back out to my main menu, and I'm just going to check one more time for any additional questions that may have been submitted. What's the easiest way for a staff member to determine if they've accidentally clocked in twice or didn't clock in at all? I would say if you're in Quick Entry, the easiest way would actually be to go to this Undo button down here on the bottom right, and it's going to show you all the scans. So you can actually switch to just staff only if you'd like to up here on the top right corner. And now I can actually see that I've scanned in but not out. Or if I had multiple scans, it would show all of them. So that's a real quick way to take a look at if you may have accidentally scanned in or missed a scan. The other way you could do that, let's say it's after the fact, then you can go back here to the attendance calendar and go to your staff volunteer hours. You could easily see, if you're missing an X for today, or you could double-click your X to view your in and out times. And that's the other way you can determine whether you've missed a punch or clocked in too many times. Keep in mind, again, I want to mention that you can give permission to your staff people to, say, view this calendar but not make any changes. So if you want your staff people to be able to see their times but not actually edit them, you could change your permissions for that username so that when they log in, they won't be able to change their times or adjust their time cards. If that's something that you'd like to do, give us a call. My last question is, will this webinar be available to download? Yes, on our website. I'm going to go ahead and pull our website up right now. All right, our website is visioncps.com. And on the left, you can go to products and services. And you'll see our brand new webinars. It's going to take you to the webinar section. You can click here to go directly to the webinar page. And now this is where all of our recorded webinars are. So if you scroll down, you'll find recorded webinars. I try to get them up by the end of the day, so it should be up there by the end of today, or if not, for sure, tomorrow morning. And then you can come here, and if you just click it, it will open up the Windows Media Player where you can begin to watch it. You can also register for future webinars and view our webinar calendars here, right here on this page. All right, at this time, that concludes our training. Thank you again for joining me today. Remember also on our website, we offer quick tips. So here on the left are quick tips. You can go to the member tracking system quick tips. And if you scroll down, you'll even find our staff volunteer scanning quick tip, which gives you instructions step-by-step on how to enter staff volunteers, schedule activities, and scan them in. It covers most of the information we discussed today, so you can print those out. Also, feel free to call us here at the office if you need assistance. Support is free. We're happy to help over the phone. I'm also going to go ahead and leave the webinar open for about 10 more minutes. So if you think of any questions, feel free to submit them through this webinar tool, and I will email you or give you a call. Have a great day, everyone.